wrote this song many years ago. Labor Day, Brooklyn. A young Haitian immigrant was savaged by a member of the NYPD, New York Police Department. Used a toilet plunger, put it where the light don't shine, and almost destroyed the inside of this man. He survived, but it brought a song along. And since then, so many people, artists across America and South America, have redone this song. I feel very proud, even though it's a dread situation. So I'm going back in time, Brooklyn, the night it happened. So much trouble in the home of the brave, at the land of the NYPD. Am I an immigrant or am I a new slave, paid for all brutality? I don't think so. Or is it that life has lost its reason? They can't even blame the heat. They're moving like jackals in a hunting season. And the refugee soul is the me. I'm telling you, the immigrants are here to stay, to help build America. Oi, 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 oi. The immigrants ain't going nowhere. They're here for America. Oi, 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 oi. Fighting for a better life, fighting through the grunge. America, don't brutalize your children now. No, we all came here to take the plunge. I hope you understand me. We do 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 do. We do 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 do. This city is now like a sweet soul calypso, a compa and a reggae. Like a punta rock and a salsa samba, a high life bangla merengue. In other words, this is a different kind of apple now. That is the truth that the haters don't want to face. Still bright, big red and juicy, but a little spicy to the taste. The immigrants are here to stay, to help build America. Oi, 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 oi. Hear me now. The immigrants ain't going nowhere. They're here for America. Oi, 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 oi. They know if they truly want to make it in this apple, you got to turn day to night. America, don't brutalize your new children. Please don't do it. We all came here to take a fight. With all these truths, we tell that all men are created equal. Bring your huddled masses to our shore. Bring them in the evening time. In the dawn to be light, bring them, bring them, bring them, bring all the troubled people to our shores. Remember the words of the founding fathers, home of the brave, land of the free. Bring them, bring them, bring them, I say now. Bring them, bring them, bring them, bring them, bring them, bring them, bring them. them, bring them, bring them, bring them, bring them, bring them. Don't leave them in Mexico. Bring them, 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 yeah. Bring them, bring them, bring.
King David Rudder. The immigrants, the immigrants are here to stay to help build America. America, land of immigrants. Even the indigenous people themselves are immigrants migrating from other parts of the Americas. Always moving. Migration is part of human existence. All human beings began in Africa and they migrated to other parts of the world. All of us are immigrants, some moving against their will, some are voluntary migrants, but we all are immigrants. America is a land of immigrants. European expansionism, slavery, human beings moving, always moving in the struggle and the fight against nature. Good evening to all of you. I notice some of you are joining us from France. From France, good evening. Those of you from other parts of Europe, good evening and welcome to Politics 101. Those of you who are joining us from our Caribbean, welcome. Welcome to Politics 101. Those of you who are joining us from England, welcome to Politics 101 on a Monday evening. We're starting off the week. America, don't brutalize your new children. America prepares to enter a phase of uncertainty. The threat to mass deportation. Serious threat. Another time of reckoning for America. Another time of reckoning. Good evening. If you're joining us from Guyana, inside our country, welcome. And it's our country, it belongs to all of us. All of us. Whether we live outside or we live within the borders, we are all Guyanese. And we're all part of the Caribbean. Good evening to those of you who are joining us from Linden. Those of you who are joining us from the interior, Region 10, which is part of the interior, Region 9, Region 8, Region 7, Region 1. Welcome to tonight's edition of Politics 101. America, don't brutalize your children, your new children. We in Guyana are facing our own moment of reckoning as far as migration is concerned. People from across our borders, Colombia, Venezuela, Brazil, and maybe others coming into Guyana, migrating. People go where there is the promise of a better life. Our day of reckoning in Guyana. Our cry is not to brutalize our new migrants. Our cry is not to manipulate our new migrants, not to use them for partisan political ends, not to use them to try to steal an election. The issue is not the immigrants. I suppose, like America, the immigrants, most of them, some of them, maybe all of them, would become Guyanese in time to come. We ourselves are immigrants. Guyanese move into other parts of the world. So we cannot be hypocritical and say we're not welcoming immigrants. All we're asking is do not use our new brothers and sisters, do not use the immigrants for partisan political end. Welcome again to Politics 101. Monday evening, the first day of the work week for some people, although that's now become somewhat of a myth, because now every day is a work week, is a work day, sorry. Sunday to Sunday, as we say. Sunday to Sunday. Welcome to Politics 101. I would like to thank those of you who have contributed, made your contribution to our fund drive, and to say thank you. Thank you to those of you who have contributed thus far, and thanking those of you in advance who are yet to make your contribution. Every cent helps our program and helps the cause. A good evening. Well, as we went off the air on Friday, the GECOM held a press conference. GECOM held a press conference. The chairperson of GECOM, Justice Claudette Singh, along with the CEO, Chief Elections Officer, was there. We had, very importantly, the legal advisor to GECOM was there. The Deputy Chief Election Officer was there. It was quite a press conference. Those of you who had a chance to view the WPS press conference held earlier today, just before this program, we did a rebroadcast for some of you who didn't catch it this morning. Our take on the press conference, the GECOM press conference. One has to conclude that the press conference did not answer many questions. It raised some new questions. We feel that GECOM should hold more press conferences. GECOM is at the crossroads, as our country is at the crossroads. The integrity of GECOM is at stake. Lots of people, I'm sure, do not have much confidence in GECOM at this time. And GECOM has to convince the population that it is going to be able to deliver a proper, a credible election next year. or whenever those elections are called. It is critical. Elections all over the world are critical. Elections do matter. Those elections help to elect those who will govern. And who governs gets the opportunity to determine who gets what, when, and how. Elections are important. Elections are not the sum total of democracy, but it's a very important aspect of democracy. Elections have consequences. Those of us who live in the United States of America know exactly what I'm talking about. This Thanksgiving is not going to be a fun time for almost half of the electorate in the United States because of the outcome of the last elections. In many regards, the last election has made America a one-party state. Would you believe that? America loves to quarrel and curse other countries, former communist countries, for being one-party states. Well, America is now a one-party state. Not for the first time, eh? There was a time in the 19th century and early 20th century when America was a one-party state, the southern part of America. When you went to register to vote in the southern states, they didn't ask you which party you belong to. They registered you as a Democrat. The Republican Party did not exist in the South. The old Republican Party, the Republican Party of Jefferson, did not exist in the South. In the South, it was a one-party state. The Democrats, in those days, the Democrats were the reactionary party. The Democrats used to hold what were called white primaries. That is, only white people could have voted in their primaries. But they were a Southern party, the only party that existed in the South. That all began to change in the 1930s as blacks began to migrate from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party, because blacks, the freed blacks, supported the Republicans as the party that supported black emancipation. The Democrats didn't. As late as 1948, when President Truman desegregated the armed forces, the Southern Republicans, many of them, left the Democratic Party and they formed a party called the Dixiecrats. In the 1948 election, Strom Thurmond was their presidential candidate. We saw blacks moving into the Democratic Party after then, and whites moving away from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party. So America was a one-party state for a long time, a part of America, the southern part of America. Well, of course, for blacks, for a long time, America was a no-party state, since neither party, they could not join because they weren't free citizens. So after the last election, a couple of weeks ago, America is now, for all intents and purposes, a one-party state, or what we may call a single dominant party state. The Republicans control the House, the Senate, the presidency, a majority of the states, and the Supreme Court. You all think about it. Of course, they've done so via an election. The outcome of an election in America is a one-party state. Both houses of the legislative branch, control of the executive branch, control of the Supreme Court, and control of a majority of the states. Our Guyana is no different. One party, the People's Progressive Party, controls the executive branch, controls the legislature, and while our apex court, of course, is the CCJ, the PPP has benefited from a lot of positive rulings at the CCJ. So for all intents and purposes, Guyana is a one-party state or a single dominant party state at best. I have to argue that a one-party state is not synonymous with democracy. Yet we refer to a country like Guyana as democracy, or we refer to the United States as democracy. They are what we call formal democracies, in the sense that they are regular elections, the institutions work. That is what we call formal democracy or limited democracy. What is the outcome of that limited democracy? What does democratic election lead to? And that's where you move away from democracy. Because democratic elections in Guyana lead to dictatorial governments. You win the election in Guyana, you win everything. Control of parliament, control of the executive branch. You get to appoint judges. Even though the Constitution says that, there must be consultation with the opposition, we see the PPP government has been willing to use the doctrine of necessity to make appointments even without consulting the opposition. In the United States, there's such a thing called recess appointments. President Trump has to get through his cabinet members and other very important nominations. He has to get them through Congress, the Senate. But if the Senate refuses to conform, he can wait until Congress is out of session and appoint the people. They'll be acting, what's called recess appointments. The same thing the PPP did in Guyana. They appointed the commissioner of police without consulting the leader of the opposition. He's acting, but he's on the job. So when people tell you that because you have elections, that is the end, that is the sum total of democracy, oh no. That's formal democracy. You now have to move to substantive democracy. What does that formal democracy lead to? And formal democracy can lead to dictatorship. We are experiencing that in Guyana. And that is why GECOM must not play around with elections. And GECOM has been playing around with the conduct of our elections. The 2020 elections was a disaster from a GECOM standpoint. GECOM cannot look at the 2020 elections and say that those elections were properly and democratically conducted. It cannot look at those elections and say the outcome of those elections were arrived at democratically. No. The chairman of GECOM made a startling revelation. She said 8,000 names were flagged as people not being in the country at the time of it. 8,000. 8,000. And this came as a result of a recount. And the recount came out of what were called an order. It was an ordinance. It was as close as you can get to a law. It was gazetted. And out of that recount, 8,000 names were flagged and sent to GECOM, saying, look, these people were not there at the time of voting. What did GECOM do? Initially, it sent the sample, a sample of those 8,000 votes. One sample was 205 votes. It sent it to the chief immigration officer. And he sent back and said, look, of this 2005, I found that 173 of these people were not in Guyana at the time of the elections. So somebody had to vote for them. 32 of them were here. That represented an 84.39% of the sample. 84.3, close to 85% of that sample. 173 of 2005 were not in the country. A second sample was sent. And of that sample, the chief immigration officer found that 99 of the people were not in the country at the time of voting. So, 173 plus 99, 272 people of two samplers was found that they were not in the country at the time of voting. If you send a sample, 2,205, 85% of that sample was found not to be, and there are 8,000 people. Mathematically, you could conclude that potentially 85% of 8,000 people might not have been in the country at the time of voting. That would be about 6,800 of the 8,000 that she said she had. That's a projection. That's a statistical projection. But we do not know whether it was more than 6,800 or less, because the Madam Chair did not send the rest of the sample to the chief immigration officer. She did not. She held on to them. Not only did she hold on to them, she did not inform the CARICOM observers. She did not inform the other observers. Look, I got 8,000 names here of people who are accused of not being in the country at the time of voting. I sent a sample to the chief immigration officer, and he found that 85% of that sample were indeed not in the country. She didn't send the rest to see whether that 85% held through for the rest, or it was down to 65%, or it went up to 90%. She held on to them. She didn't inform the media, I have them. She didn't inform the observers that she has this time bomb sitting there. She went ahead and she called the election for one party, knowing that she has potentially 8,000 cases of voter impersonation. That is almost 1.5 seats. The PPP was declared the winner with a majority of 1 seat. 1 seat. You have voter impersonation, you have the number of cases that is equivalent to 1.5 seats. And you declare an election for one contestant which won by 1 seat. And you have potential voter impersonation which could have been verified had she sent them to the chief immigration officer. She did not. She did not tell the public. She did not tell the observers. And then she said something at the press conference. She said, well, I didn't act on them because that's a matter for a petition. And that's a matter for the courts. And if the court found that all of those persons, or some of them, were not in the country, it's a breach of the law. The Madam Chair said that if of those 8,000, some of them or all of them were found not to be in the country at the time of voting, it's a breach of the law. So she declared an election with knowledge that there is a potential breach of the law. Why didn't she tell the country that this existed? Why didn't she tell the observers? Those names came from the Order 60, the GECOM. They didn't come. Nobody picked them up at the corner of the streets. Order 60 was like a law. It was not a substitute for law. An ordinance is almost like law. It was gazetted. But more than that, when the elections were over, after she declared the PPP the winner, and the petitions went and the petitions were thrown out, she didn't say, well, everything is over now. GECOM, let us do our internal investigation of this thing. No, she didn't. Even after all the story was finished, she didn't. Why she didn't? Sisters and brothers, it's called cover up. She covered up the fraud before the declaration of the election. She covered up it after the declaration of the election, and she's covering it up right now. She herself, as an officer of the law, she said, if it is found to be true by a court of law that these people were not in the country, it would be a breach of the law. She said the commissioner would have had to go before a court if the petition had gone through and give evidence saying these people were not in the country. Well, he already gave evidence to something, while not the substitute for law, but is almost like a law, which is the Order 6, the recount. The recount was almost like a petition. The evidence from the recount was what was going to go to a petition. The court didn't have to go digging. The evidence was presented to GECOM. She, Madam Chair, would have had to go before the court and said, I got this list. I sent 2 samples. 1 sample came back and said 85% of the people are not in the country. She would have had to give that evidence. The immigration officer, the chief immigration officer, the commissioner would have had to give that evidence. Why not? You did not make this public. It was a cover-up of fraud. Cover-up of fraud. And the fraud potentially could have overturned the results of the elections, could have made a difference. Usually the court would say, look, there is fraud, but the fraud would not have affected the outcome. Well, this fraud potentially, more than potentially, high probability that this instance of voter impersonation would have affected the outcome of the elections. Cover up. That's what Madam Chair and GECOM have been involved in these last 4 years. The verbose Multiprepe Attorney General asked for the list. GECOM gave him the list. He's the Attorney General. He got this list. This is the same Attorney General that urged the police to charge some GECOM officers and to charge some coalition leaders for attempting to rig an election by mistabulating the votes in Region 4. All right? So you now have 8,000 names of people who clearly voted or potentially voted that were not there. You have a sample already where the chief election officer said, look, of 2005, 173 were not here. Who made it possible for them to vote? Who benefited from it? You charge people for attempting to rig an election. You have evidence before you of actual rigging, and you didn't tell the police to charge anybody. Are we to conclude that those people who would have been charged would have been your supporters in GECOM, your people in GECOM? You like to charge. Why you charge nobody? You charge for attempted, but you have evidence of actual fraud in front of you. Nobody's charged. No investigation. GECOM didn't investigate. The Attorney General didn't investigate. The Attorney General and GECOM, they need to be investigated by the police for covering up of fraud. Covering up of fraud is being party to fraud. You know, the press, the media, for 4 years, they knew. No, they knew. But they never questioned GECOM because the media jumped the gun and said the coalition was attempting to rig election and PPP win. So now, when faced with evidence that could overturn that narrative, they silenced it. Thank God for Dennis Chabral from Demerara Waves, who mustered the courage to ask the question. And he did, and look at the answer we got. Yes, if it was found to be true by a court of law, it's a breach of the law. Yes, I didn't do anything with it before the election or after the election. The Attorney General and GECOM chairperson are part of a cover-up. And they need to be investigated and possibly charged. Because cover-up of electoral fraud is being party to electoral fraud. She had that information before she made the declaration. Yet she went ahead and declared the election for one side. And if you have 8,000 cases of voter impersonation, if 5,000 of those cases are found to be true, if it was found that 5,000 of those names were not in the country, that is equivalent to one seat. And the PPP was declared the winner by one seat. That is why the Americans said that the PPP were inside. The Americans get the information. When the Americans said the PPP was installed, they knew what they were saying because they have this information. But the story is not finished yet. Dennis Chabral, Demerara Waves, God bless him, he asked about the 47 boxes that were found not to have statutory documents. Madam Chair said, yes, it was drawn to her attention. Yes, initially she put aside the 47 boxes. She said, oh, included in the count. She said she asked Lowenfield where the documents could be. He said the documents could be at Caldigen because that's the East Coast Command Center. When Lowenfield went to Caldigen, he couldn't find the votes. He couldn't find the documents. Statutory documents. Statutory means legal. Statutory documents. He couldn't find them. He told Madam Chair, I couldn't find the documents. Madam Chair, after initially removing the boxes, decided she's going to count the boxes, and her excuse is that Vincent Alexander said that the people should not be disenfranchised. What she did is start off the story. What Vincent said is that, look, you cannot take out these boxes, which I understand is equivalent to about 10 to 12,000 votes in those 47 boxes. And he was saying that people voted. And so what you could do is hold a by-election in the constituency. That is another election just for the districts where those boxes were. Madam Chair did not take Lowenfield's advice, which is to take out those 47 boxes, don't count them in the final outcome because they don't have statutory documents, they are tainted votes. Vincent said, look, although they are tainted boxes, the votes are not necessarily tainted. Let's do a by-election. He gave them a way out. Madam Chair did not accept. She didn't do a by-election. She didn't take Lowenfield advice to remove the boxes altogether. She didn't take Vincent advice to do a by-election. She just put the boxes there as though they're legal. When Dennis Chabral asked the legal advisor on Friday at the press conference. He said, what does the law say must be in the boxes? The legal advisor, he chuckled because he know, right. He get catchy. He said, the law says that these documents, especially what are called sensitive documents, should be in the boxes. That's what the law said. That's what the legal advisor said. The law say. And if the law says that these documents got to be in the box, especially sensitive documents, then the absence of these documents from the boxes, means that there's a violation of the law. And Lowenfield was right. If the law says you have to have these documents, especially what is called sensitive documents in the box, the law said that. And if the law said that, and the documents are not there, then the votes are not validly, they're not legal. Lowenfield was right. I'm not saying Vincent was wrong. Vincent was giving away out a compromise, and they didn't accept the compromise. But Lowenfield was right, because according to the legal advisor on Friday, the law said this, and so it was a violation of the law for the documents not to be there, and so it was a violation of the law to count those votes as valid votes. I'm sorry. Lowenfield was right. Those votes represented 2 seats. The PPP won the election by 1 seat. The legal advisor said, well, we are now training GECOM personnel, and in the training, we are telling them what documents need to be in the box. Post-mortem can't bring back dead. You know that. They are correcting fraud after they use the fraud to declare the election. Who took those documents out? Were they intentionally taken out? If at some point the documents were supposed to be at Caldigen, who removed them from Caldigen? Where are they now? Somebody burned them? Somebody threw them in Maika River? Somebody buried them somewhere? Where are those documents? Where are those documents? Why the documents were taken out? 47 boxes in mainly PPP strongholds. Pick sense from nonsense. The PPP would have won those boxes because they're in their strongholds. But the documents would have shown real votes, would have shown the tally, and it's clearly they padded those boxes, they added votes to the boxes. And as they put the documents in the boxes, the documents would have recorded the correct votes, and it would have shown there were more votes in the boxes than the document. So they take out the document, they probably burn them, or whatever they do them. There may be a Congress place, I don't know. Not Congress place, Freedom House. I don't know. But what could be the motive for taking out these documents? It is clear that the documents would have contradicted what were in the boxes. That is why you have these documents. That is why the law says you must have these documents. Look, Evan, don't tell me about statement of poll. The election was not declared on statements of poll. Once you go to recount, statements of poll gone through the window. The elections were determined by the recount. not statements of Paul. Don't try to make us a fool here. Statement of Paul is now, by the time you get to the recount, statements of Paul is a thing of the past. The elections were not declared based on statements of Paul. They were declared based on what was seen in the boxes. And the PPP was declared winner based on the raw count. But an audited count showed that 47 boxes were tainted. It showed that potentially 8,000 people voted as part of voter impersonation. It is the look, my election, WPA election expert here, my brother Ali Majid. Ali says the documents are placed in the ballot boxes by the presiding officer. Why Nandlal didn't go all on the presiding officers in those 47 polling places and put them before the court? Did the presiding officer put the documents in the boxes and somebody take them out? Or did the presiding officer not put? So whoever presided was of 47 boxes engaged in electoral fraud. Why? Why take out or why not put documents in the box? A thief will tell you, I didn't put them in the boxes because they would have contradicted what was actually in the boxes. Electoral fraud occurred at the 2020 election. If the PPP is saying that there was an attempt to rig the elections and they have SOPs to prove it, the coalition were saying and are still saying that there was actual rigging, not potential, not attempted, actual rigging of the elections because 47 boxes did not have statutory documents, which was a breach of the law. 8,000 names were flagged as potential examples of voter impersonation. The police, the police, immigration said in a sample of 2005, 84-point-something% was not in the country. So what the coalition is saying, we saw actual fraud. We saw actual fraud, and our evidence is the empty boxes, meaning boxes without SOPs. Our evidence is these people who are not in the country, and the police say, it's true, we are not. What the coalition people did is that they went and they did field work. They took names, they took maybe a sample, I don't know how they did it. But they took these names and they went and checked. They went and checked. And they found that these are names of people who weren't in. They didn't get it 100%, but they get it 85%. And if they were able to present 8,000, as old people say, where that come from, more there. Where that come from, there is more. Those of you who don't understand Creolese. Where that come from, more there. I rather suspect there were more than 8,000. There are more than 8,000. Where you come from, more there? Were there other boxes that did not have statutory documents that may have eluded the coalition counters? Sisters and brothers, there was fraud, clear fraud by GECOM's own admission at that press conference, what the Madam Chair calls a breach of the law. And it is clear that Madam Chair and GECOM covered up the fraud. And they continue to cover it up. The reason that they have not done what any serious agency would do, you do a story, let me evaluate. Let's see how well we did as GECOM. Boy, did we pull this off right. What went wrong? What went right? The chairperson and the PPP commissioners have repeatedly and stoutly refused to do an investigation. You know why? Because if GECOM does a review and an investigation, it would reveal these instances of fraud and maybe more. And while GECOM can't charge nobody, that would be evidence that elections were stolen and evidence that people, the human element, was part of it. I have not deliberately, when people were calling me during the 5 months, David, come out, including people in my own party, yeah? Come out and condemn the coalition for rigging this election. I said no. The WPA said no. Let us wait. Let us wait and get the fullness, as Rastaman would say. Let us wait and get the full citation. And up to this point, the WPA has not said who won the election because we do not know. What we know is that there was fraud. That we know because the evidence is full in our faces. So we did not. I have not. I know a lot of people on the side say, well, the PPP rigged the election and the coalition won. I couldn't go down that road. Nor could I go down the road and say, they see Mingo with a bed sheet and so that means PPP win. I couldn't do that. We in the WPA couldn't do that, and we didn't. And we are perhaps the only party who did not call the election one way or the other. And now we are hearing from GECOM that the ammunition for fraud was there, buku. Habar. Buku. And you know Creoles will know what I mean by habar. Buku. Doro. In case you had young people and know Creoles, you are learning something tonight. The evidence was there, doro, plenty. That's what it means. Enough. Habar, enough. It's now coming out. And Madam Chair, defense is, well, I didn't do nothing because it was left to a petition. Well, you had a mini petition in the recount. One of the reasons people were against the recount is they said the recount is replacing a petition. Madam Chair, if you when they said they see Mingo mistabulated, why you didn't say I am doing nothing, let that go to a petition? No, you didn't. When the PPP said we see thieving, you acted. You didn't say it go to the petition. When the coalition present robbing and thieving to you, you say like go to petition. You are damn one-sided and you contributed to a rigged election. welfare of the PPP are ready to go. Jail me quickly for saying this. Sue me. Once I do him out, I'm going to do a recount. Even if Granger, they say you want to recount, tell him go to hell. The last say, you must go to petition. The last say, we must go to petition. You didn't. You went to a recount. You went to a recount. When the other side present thorough evidence, buko evidence, habar evidence, you say, let's go to petition. How the hell can you sit there and say you were being fair? No, Madam Chair. I have respect for you as a judge. But in this instance, as GECOM Chair, you have contributed and continue to cover up, as GECOM Chair, cover up fraud. That is why this election coming, we can't play wrong. They are going to try again. They're trying right now. This morning paper said that the voters list gone up to 700,000. I am hearing that is about where the population is based on the last census. So the whole country, they're on the voters list. The whole country. The paper said this morning they got to take out 1,000 dead people. Jesus Lord. Me village alone must get about 300 dead. The whole country is 1,000 dead people you find. You don't watch that announcement. This by you put up all them people dead. I think you just get it from them. Oh, every day you put up a 10, 15, 20. And you're telling me only 1,000 dead people you find. What about them 1,000 who dead in America and Canada and England and Barbados and what? Sisters and brothers, this is serious business. And all you have to treat it seriously. You know, one of the things I love Guyanese, and you all know that. But one of the things I just get vexed with all you for. I don't take too long, especially black man. You all just take too long to understand the seriousness that is facing. Things that's got to happen. People just got beat at you before you realize you're all getting beat. When a man come in with a whip and he coming menacingly towards you, and then me you come from, you must go for beat somebody. A man with a whip watching you with blood in the eye, and you still do not believe that he come in for whip you. You wait till he meet there and bust your ass, and then you say, oh, Jesus Christ. We make that mistake a lot as black people. I'm not saying that the other ethnic groups don't make it, but I think black people make it more. We just can't forget we are caught before we realize that we are caught. Because we always believe something. These elections, the reason the PPP and the chair are so adamant, no biometrics, all kind of thing they're putting up, all kind of barriers, time, money, constitutional reform. The bus ass has already started. The bus ass has already started. And we on we side arguing about who should be presidential candidate, rather than realizing that they are rigging the ass, rigging the hell, rigging the behind out of this election already. A man get a cutlass in your hand and say, I'm going to cut your neck off. I'm going to cut your head off. And you say, nah, man, a joke you make. Nah, man, a joke you make. Give me $100,000, man. And he put $100,000 in your hand and then chop your head off. Spend that $100,000 now. Spend them now. Spend them. Spend them. He cut your head off. And that is what the PPP is doing, is cutting our heads off and giving me $100,000 and be. They cut your head off and use your head. Use your head as a vote. Give somebody your head and say, vote for him. Vote for she. We got to get serious. We have to get serious. If after you all listen to me tonight and you all do not realize exactly what happened in 2020, yet the narrative out there is that the the PNC attempted to rig the election. And everybody running around the place repeating that. SOPs, where the SOPs? I don't want to tell them where the SOP there. The elections were not determined by SOPs. Lyndon Wright, you're quite right, Lyndon. When you get, I have not, look, and I don't even know why some of our people even agree to that nonsense. You cannot have polling stations in people's private houses. You put in polling station in people's bedroom. Sisters and brothers, are we depanam? Are we depanam? We have to realize the seriousness of this. And we have to fight. Fight. And when our leaders are going to throw in the towel, I notice some of you all cussing Granger, and you're all right. Because, anyhow, we are in serious trouble, and we have to confront the trouble. The trouble. So much trouble in the world, so much trouble in Guyana, so much trouble in our electoral system. GECOM, as of today, cannot deliver free and fair elections in 2025. I hereby say that. GECOM, as of today, in its present state, given its track record, given its denial, given its staunch and stout resistance to introducing measures to guarantee free and fair elections, as of tonight, they cannot deliver free and fair elections. We can make them do what needs to be done to make the elections free and fair. We can make them do it. We can make them do it. We can make them do it. You all have to decide. Thank those of you who have made your contribution. And those of you who have not made your contribution, please do so. Please do so. Please do so. We have this cause. We have to continue this cause. We have to continue it. And we have to recognize that this cause calls for all kinds of action, including keeping our media, keeping our forums going. Had it not been for these forums, had it not been for these programs, we would have been buried 40 feet under already. So you all please support these forums. I'm making a pitch for this program, but I'm making a pitch for this program, I'm making a pitch for all programs to keep them online. You know, we live in a world in which everything has a cost. Nobody will allow us to do these things free. Free. Everything will go up, including what it takes to host these programs. So please make your contributions, and more than that, prepare to put on all your boots to ensure that the elections are free and fair. I love you all. I must. Love begins at home, like charity begins at home. And together we can do this thing. We are. Until tomorrow. Until tomorrow. Same time, same place.